Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today, we are diving into the book, The Advantage. In this explainer, we're unpacking what is essentially Patrick Lencioni's grand unified theory of business. Look, if you've ever felt like your workplace has literally all the right resources, but still somehow struggles to get out of its own way, well, you are in the exact right place. We're going to break down why the ultimate competitive edge isn't about being the smartest in the room. No, it's about being the healthiest. I want you to picture a workplace you've either experienced firsthand or, heard absolute horror stories about. Imagine a company with an incredible strategy. They've got top-tier talent, seemingly limitless funding, cutting-edge technology, the whole shebang. But on the inside, it is deeply, deeply unhealthy. It's crippled by toxic politics, constant backstabbing, endless confusion, and this rapid turnover of their absolute best people. All that brilliant strategy and talent means absolutely nothing if the engine running it is completely broken. Okay, let's dive into this. The central thesis of Lencioni's work is this stark contrast between two sides of a business. On one side, we have the smart side. This is your strategy, finance, technology, marketing. Most companies massively overinvest right here, but being smart, that's just a baseline commodity today. On the flip side, we have the healthy organization. This means minimal politics, minimal confusion, high morale, and total unshakable alignment. Lencioni argues that a healthy company will always get smarter over time because people learn from each other without all that friction. But a toxic, smart company, it will eventually fail. Health is the ultimate competitive advantage that just eats smart for lunch. Now, this brings us to a massive elephant in the room. Ask yourself this really simple question. Why do leaders prefer spending millions of dollars on new tech deployments or fancy strategy consultants instead of just fixing two VPs who absolutely hate each other? Well, the answer is just human nature. Leaders avoid addressing internal dysfunction because it feels incredibly uncomfortable. It's messy, it's personal. So what do? They opt for expensive, ineffective smart fixes while the actual health of the organization just continues to rot from the inside out. So to stop that rot, Lencioni lays out a step-by-step playbook. Here's our agenda for this explainer. First, the core foundation. Second, creating clarity. Third, over-communicating. Fourth, structural plumbing. And finally, number 5, the meeting stew. All right, let's jump into number 1, the core foundation, which is all about building a cohesive leadership team. You simply cannot have a healthy company if the executive team is fractured at the top. If the leaders aren't rowing in the exact same direction, that misalignment ripples down and creates massive waves of confusion and politics across the entire company. Building a cohesive team actually requires 5 specific behaviors. First up, vulnerability-based trust. Leaders absolutely must be able to comfortably look at their peers and say, hey, I messed up, or I really need help. Without that, you can't have the second element, which is productive conflict. Healthy teams engage in passionate ideological conflict. No politics, no backstabbing, just everything left right on the table. Third, they disagree and commit. Even if you don't completely agree, once a decision is made, you back it 100%. Fourth is pure accountability. You don't wait for the boss to call it poor performance, you do it as peers. And finally, a relentless focus on collective results over individual egos. Moving right along to Discipline 2, creating clarity through 6 critical questions. This is where true organizational alignment happens. Because if the leadership team isn't perfectly aligned on the foundational direction of the company, the rest of the organization stands absolutely zero chance of executing successfully. Leaders must identically answer these 6 critical questions. Why do we exist? How do we behave? What do we do? How will we succeed? What is most important right now? And who must do what? And this brilliantly illustrates how answering these fundamental questions eliminates ambiguity. It's not about finding the perfect poetic answers. It's about making sure everyone genuinely agrees so that ambiguity doesn't breed self-interest and confusion further down the line. Now, when answering question 2, how do we behave, we almost always run into a classic pitfall, the corporate buzzword trap. Come on, we've all seen those glossy plaques on the lobby walls. Having 15 core values that include generic words like integrity and excellence means absolutely nothing. It's a wish list. Lencioni's rule is that you only need 2 or 3 real behavioral core values that actually dictate how you hire, fire, and promote. If everyone claims to have integrity, it's not a differentiator. That's just a baseline for being a decent human being. Then we have question number 5. What is most important right now? This is your rallying cry. It's a single thematic goal for the next 3 to 12 months. And here is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of leaders. If your company has 20 top priorities, it actually has 0 priorities. A single rallying cry is absolutely required to focus the business. It gives everyone across all departments a shared objective to prioritize above their own individual goals. All right, that brings us to discipline number 3, over-communicating through relentless repetition. Look, there is a massive gaping chasm between what leaders think they've communicated and what employees actually absorb. Just because you sent out one all-company email or briefly mentioned the new strategy at a town hall absolutely does not mean the organization has clarity. What's really fascinating here is this specific number, 7. Research shows that employees actually need to hear a message 7 times before they truly internalize and believe it. The problem is, leaders get bored of their own voices way before that point. They sit there thinking, man, I already said this last month, they're going to think I'm crazy. But guess what? Your team hasn't actually absorbed it yet. As Lencioni puts it, you have to communicate until you are literally sick of hearing yourself. Leaders have to view themselves as relentless evangelists. You aren't just a decision maker, you're the chief reminding officer. You need to creatively and interactively cascade these messages down through every single level of the organization, across multiple channels, until it just becomes second nature to everyone. Next up, discipline number 4, structural plumbing to reinforce clarity. So you've built a great team and you are communicating relentlessly. But if you stop there, it's really just a bunch of talk. The clarity you just created has to be hardwired into the actual human systems of the company to make those right behaviors practically automatic. This means completely aligning your hiring, your onboarding, performance management, rewards, and even your firing decisions directly with your core values and that rallying cry we talked about. So the absolute crucial point is this. Imagine you have a top performer, say a salesperson who absolutely crushes their quota every quarter, but they constantly violate your core values and just create toxic drama. Your decision to keep or fire that person broadcasts to the entire company what you truly value. If you keep them while your values on the wall are a complete lie. Finally, discipline number 5, the meeting stew and fixing everyday dysfunction. To really tie all of this together, we have to look at where organizational health is most visibly tested. Yep, you guessed it, the soul-crushing company meeting. Lencioni calls this the meeting stew. It's when a company mashes tactical updates, deep strategic debates, and boring administrative issues all into one 2-hour, completely useless meeting. When you throw everything into one pot like that, ambiguity totally takes over. People zone out, nothing actually gets resolved, and that lack of structure just lets people fill in the gaps with their own frustration and self-interest. Let's look at how we can build a much healthier structure here. The fix is to separate the stew into distinct, purpose-driven ingredients. So you have 5-minute daily check-ins just for administrative schedules. Then you have a weekly tactical meeting to review metrics and resolve any immediate roadblocks. And entirely separately, you hold a monthly strategic meeting where you dive deep into just 1 or 2 massive topics. By separating the context, meetings actually stop being a waste of time and become the most productive part of your operational health. To summarize our deep dive today, a healthy organization is always going to get smarter over time. Because it has that foundation of trust and clarity, it effortlessly removes barriers, it learns faster, and it executes so much better. An unhealthy organization, on the other hand, constantly wastes its precious energy and its top talent on internal friction, politics, and confusion. Seriously, no matter how brilliant the strategy is, a toxic company will eventually fail. I want to leave you with this provocative final thought to reflect on regarding your own workplace. Is your incredibly smart strategy engine trying to run on the fumes of a toxic culture? Because if strategy is the plan, organizational health is the engine that actually makes the plan work. Take a hard look at your team's health today. Thanks for joining me for this explainer and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.